Welcome to the Bible Quiz and Trivia channel. Today, we prepared a set of challenging questions that will test your knowledge of the Old Testament, covering everything from famous figures like Moses and Elijah to key events like the parting of the Red Sea and the giving of the Ten Commandments. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and like this video to support our content. After the quiz, share your score in the comments. We love seeing how well you do. Are you ready? Let's get started. Question 1. Who was the oldest person in the Bible, and how old was he when he died? A. Adam. B. Methuselah. C. Enoch. D. Lamech. Answer: B. Methuselah. Methuselah was the oldest person in the Bible, living to the age of 969 years. Genesis 5:27 states, "Thus all the days of Methuselah were 969 years, and he died." His remarkable lifespan symbolizes the long lifespans of humans before the flood and serves as a testament to the ancient world's genealogical records. Question 2. What were the names of Isaac's sons? A. Cain and Abel. B. Jacob and Esau. C. Joseph and Benjamin. D. Ephraim and Manasseh. Answer: B. Jacob and Esau. Isaac had twin sons, Jacob and Esau. Genesis 25:24-26 tells us, "When her days to give birth were completed, behold, there were twins in her womb. The first came out red, all his body like a hairy cloak, so they called his name Esau. Afterward his brother came out with his hand holding Esau's heel, so his name was called Jacob." This set the stage for the later rivalry between the brothers and God's plan for Israel through Jacob. Question 3. What significant event does the rainbow symbolize in the story of Noah? A. God's promise to never flood the earth again. B. The separation of earth and heaven. C. The creation of new animal species. D. A warning of future floods. Answer: A. God's promise to never flood the earth again. The rainbow represents God's covenant with Noah and all living creatures, a promise that he would never again destroy the earth with a flood. Genesis 9:13-15 states, "I have set my bow in the cloud, and it shall be a sign of the covenant between me and the earth. The waters shall never again become a flood to destroy all flesh." This covenant emphasizes God's mercy and faithfulness after the judgment of the flood. Question 4. Who was the first king of Israel? A. Saul. B. David. C. Solomon. D. Samuel. Answer: A. Saul. Saul was the first king of Israel, anointed by the prophet Samuel at God's command. 1 Samuel 10:1 says, "Then Samuel took a flask of oil and poured it on Saul's head and kissed him, saying, 'Has not the Lord anointed you ruler over his inheritance?'" Saul's reign marked the beginning of the Israelite monarchy, although his kingship was later marred by disobedience to God. Question 5. Which prophet interpreted dreams in Egypt? A. Isaiah. B. Daniel. C. Joseph. D. Moses. Answer: C. Joseph. Joseph, one of the 12 sons of Jacob, interpreted dreams while in Egypt, which led to his rise in prominence. Genesis 41:15-16 recounts Joseph saying to Pharaoh, "I cannot do it, but God will give Pharaoh the answer he desires." Joseph's ability to interpret Pharaoh's dreams about an impending famine saved Egypt and established his leadership. Question 6. What type of wood was used to build Noah's Ark? A. Oak. B. Gopher. C. Cedar. D. Pine. Answer: B. Gopher. Noah's Ark was made of gopher wood. Genesis 6:14 states, "Make yourself an ark of gopher wood, make rooms in the ark, and cover it inside and out with pitch." While the exact type of wood remains unclear, This material was specified by God to ensure the ark's durability through the flood. Question 7. What were the plagues that struck Egypt? Name at least 3. A. Frogs, locusts, and water turned into blood. B. Darkness, frogs, and hail. C. Fire, ice, and locusts. D. Frogs, hail, and grasshoppers. Answer: A. Frogs, locusts, and water turned into blood. The plagues were a series of divine punishments inflicted on Egypt for Pharaoh's refusal to free the Israelites. Exodus chapters 7 to 12 describe the plagues, including the water turning into blood, Exodus 7:20, frogs, Exodus 8 to 6, and locusts, Exodus 10:13. These events demonstrated God's power and his commitment to his people. Question 8. Who did God command to sacrifice his son on Mount Moriah? A. Noah. B. Abraham. C. Isaac. D. Jacob. Answer: B. Abraham. God tested Abraham's faith by commanding him to sacrifice his son, Isaac, on Mount Moriah. Genesis 22:2 says, "Take your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering." However, God provided a ram in Isaac's place, affirming Abraham's faith and obedience. Question 9. What was the original name of the person who became Israel? A. Saul. B. Jacob. C. Abraham. D. Moses. Answer: B. Jacob. Jacob, after wrestling with an angel, had his name changed to Israel. Genesis 32:28 states, "Your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with humans and have overcome." This event marks the origin of the name Israel for the nation that descended from Jacob's sons. Question 10. Which book of the Old Testament is a collection of religious poems or songs? A. Proverbs. B. Psalms. C. Job. D. Ecclesiastes. Answer: B. Psalms. The Book of Psalms is a collection of 150 religious poems or songs, many of which are attributed to King David. These psalms express a wide range of emotions, from lament to thanksgiving. Psalms 23 is one of the most famous, beginning with "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." Question 11. How many days did it take God to create the world according to Genesis? A. 5 days. B. 6 days. C. 7 days. D. 8 days. Answer: B. 6 days. According to Genesis, God created the world in 6 days and rested on the seventh. Genesis 2:2 states, "By the seventh day God had finished the work he had been doing, so on the seventh day he rested from all his work." The 6 days of creation are described in detail in Genesis 1, with each day marking a new act of creation. Question 12. Who was the first murderer mentioned in the Bible? A. Esau. B. Cain. C. Lamech. D. Abel. Answer: B. Cain. Cain, the firstborn son of Adam and Eve, committed the first murder by killing his brother Abel out of jealousy. Genesis 4:8 records, Cain said to Abel, "Let's go out to the field." And while they were in the field, Cain attacked his brother Abel and killed him. This event symbolizes the destructive power of sin and the brokenness in humanity after the fall. Question 13. What was the sign of the covenant between God and Abraham? A. Circumcision. B. A rainbow. C. The Ark of the Covenant. D. An altar. Answer: A. Circumcision. Circumcision was the sign of the covenant between God and Abraham. Genesis 17:10-11 states, "This is my covenant with you and your descendants after you. Every male among you shall be circumcised. you are to undergo circumcision, and it will be the sign of the covenant between me and you. This practice became a key mark of identity for the descendants of Abraham. Question 14. Who was sold into slavery by his brothers? A. David. B. Moses. C. Joseph. D. Daniel. Answer: C. Joseph. Joseph was sold into slavery by his brothers due to their jealousy of him being favored by their father. Genesis 37:28 states, "So when the Midianite merchants came by, his brothers pulled Joseph up out of the cistern and sold him for 20 shekels of silver to the Ishmaelites, who took him to Egypt." This event set the stage for Joseph's rise to power in Egypt. Question 15. What is the shortest book in the Old Testament? A. Obadiah. B. Jonah. C. Micah. D. Malachi. Answer: A. Obadiah. The book of Obadiah is the shortest book in the Old Testament, containing only one chapter with 21 verses. It is a prophetic book focused on the judgment of Edom, a neighboring nation to Israel, and the restoration of Israel. Obadiah 1-1 opens with, "The vision of Obadiah. Thus says the Lord God concerning Edom." Question 16. Who led the Israelites into the promised land? A. Moses. B. Joshua. C. Aaron. D. Caleb. Answer: B. Joshua. Joshua succeeded Moses as the leader of the Israelites and led them into the promised land. Joshua 1-2-3 records God's command to Joshua, "Moses my servant is dead. Now then, you and all these people get ready to cross the Jordan River into the land I am about to give to them. I will give you every place where you set your foot, as I promised Moses." Question 17. Which two birds did Noah send out of the ark to check if the floodwaters had subsided? A. Eagle and raven. B. Dove and raven. C. Sparrow and dove. D. Hawk and eagle. Answer: B. Dove and raven. Noah sent out a raven first, and then a dove to check if the floodwaters had subsided. Genesis 8-7-8 states, "He sent out a raven, and it kept flying back and forth until the water had dried up from the earth. Then he sent out a dove to see if the water had receded from the surface of the ground. The dove eventually returned with an olive leaf, symbolizing the end of the flood." Question 18. What was written on the wall in the story of Belshazzar's feast? A. Man, Tekel, Parson. B. Ishabad. C. Adonai Elohim. D. Hallelujah. Answer: A. Man, Tekel, Parson. The writing on the wall, Man, Tekel, Parson, appeared during Belshazzar's feast as a divine message of judgment. Daniel 5:25-28 explains, "Man means God has numbered the days of your reign and brought it to an end. Tekel means you have been weighed on the scales and found wanting, and Parson means your kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and Persians." Question 19. Who was the mother of Samuel? A. Rebekah. B. Rachel. C. Hannah. D. Ruth. Answer: C. Hannah. Hannah was the mother of Samuel. She prayed earnestly for a child, and God answered her prayer. 1 Samuel 1:20 states, "So in the course of time Hannah became pregnant and gave birth to a son. She named him Samuel, saying, 'Because I asked the Lord for him.'" Samuel would go on to become a great prophet and judge of Israel. Question 20. What city did Joshua and the Israelites conquer by marching around its walls? A. Jerusalem. B. Jericho. C. Ai. D. Bethel. Answer: B. Jericho. Joshua and the Israelites famously conquered the city of Jericho by marching around its walls for 7 days as instructed by God. Joshua 6:20 states, "When the trumpet sounded, the army shouted, and at the sound of the trumpet, when the men gave a loud shout, the wall collapsed. So everyone charged straight in, and they took the city." This victory demonstrated God's power and faithfulness to the Israelites. Question 21. Who was thrown into a lion's den by King Darius? A. Joseph. B. Daniel. C. Nehemiah. D. Elijah. Answer: B. Daniel. Daniel was thrown into the lion's den by King Darius after being accused of violating the king's decree against praying to any god other than the king. Daniel 6:16 states, "So the king gave the order, and they brought Daniel and threw him into the lion's den. However, God protected Daniel, and he emerged unharmed, demonstrating God's power to deliver the faithful." Question 22. What are the first 10 commandments known as collectively? A. The covenant. B. The law. C. The Decalogue. D. The testaments. Answer: C. The Decalogue. The 10 Commandments are also known as the Decalogue, meaning 10 words. Exodus 20-117 and Deuteronomy 5-621 list these commandments, which form the foundation of the moral law given by God to the Israelites through Moses. They encompass key principles of worship and ethics in the Judeo-Christian tradition. Question 23. Which prophet was swallowed by a great fish? A. Jonah. B. Elijah. C. Isaiah. D. Hosea. Answer: A. Jonah. Jonah was swallowed by a great fish after he tried to flee from God's command to go to Nineveh. Jonah 1:17 states, "Now the Lord provided a huge fish to swallow Jonah, and Jonah was in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights." This miraculous event led Jonah to repent and ultimately fulfill his mission. Question 24. Name the mountain where Moses received the 10 Commandments. A. Mount Sinai. B. Mount Zion. C. Mount Ararat. D. Mount Carmel. Answer: A. Mount Sinai. Moses received the 10 Commandments on Mount Sinai. Exodus 19:20 states, "The Lord descended to the top of Mount Sinai and called Moses to the top of the mountain." This moment marks a pivotal event in the history of Israel, where the covenant between God and his people was formally established. Question 25. Who was the queen of Persia who saved her people from genocide? A. Esther. B. Deborah. C. Vashti. D. Ruth. Answer: A. Esther. Esther, a Jewish queen of Persia, saved her people from a plot to annihilate them. Esther 4:16 shows her bravery. "Then I will go to the king, though it is against the law, and if I perish, I perish." Through her courage and faith, the Jewish people were spared, and the event is commemorated in the Festival of Purim. Question 26. In which book is the story of Samson and his strength? A. Judges. B. 1 Kings. C. Joshua. D. 2 Samuel. Answer: A. Judges. The story of Samson, known for his incredible strength, is found in the book of Judges. Judges 13-16 narrates the story of Samson, who was a Nazarite and gained his strength through a vow made to God. His downfall came when his hair was cut, breaking his vow, but he regained his strength to defeat the Philistines. Question 27. Who wrestled with an angel and had his name changed to Israel? A. Moses. B. Abraham. C. Jacob. D. David. Answer: C. Jacob. Jacob wrestled with an angel and had his name changed to Israel. Genesis 32:28 states, "Then the man said, 'Your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with humans and have overcome.'" This event signifies Jacob's spiritual transformation and the birth of the nation of Israel. Question 28. What foreign queen came to test King Solomon with hard questions? A. Queen of Sheba. B. Queen Vashti. C. Queen of Egypt. D. Queen Esther. Answer A. Queen of Sheba. The Queen of Sheba came to test King Solomon with hard questions after hearing of his wisdom and wealth. 1 Kings 10:1 states, when the Queen of Sheba heard about the fame of Solomon and his relationship to the Lord, she came to test Solomon with hard questions. Impressed by Solomon's wisdom, she acknowledged the greatness of God. Question 29. What was the main material used to construct the tabernacle? A. Cedar. B. Acacia wood. C. Pine. D. Olive wood. Answer B. Acacia wood. The tabernacle was primarily constructed using acacia wood. Exodus 25:10 states, have them make an ark of acacia wood 2.5 cubits long, a cubit and a half wide, and a cubit and a half high. This portable sanctuary was the center of Israelite worship during their time in the wilderness. Question 30. Who was the first prophet to prophesy the destruction of Jerusalem? A. Micah. B. Isaiah. C. Jeremiah. D. Ezekiel. Answer A. Micah. Micah was the first prophet to prophesy the destruction of Jerusalem. Micah 3:12 states, therefore because of you, Zion shall be plowed as a field, Jerusalem shall become a heap of ruins. His prophecy was later echoed by other prophets like Jeremiah, warning the people of their impending doom due to their sins. Question 31. How many tribes of Israel were there? A. 7. B. 10. C. 12. D. 15. Answer C. 12. There were 12 tribes of Israel, descended from the 12 sons of Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel. Genesis 35:22-26 lists these 12 sons, who became the patriarchs of the tribes that formed the nation of Israel. Question 32. What was the name of King Saul's son who was a close friend of David? A. Jonathan. B. Absalom. C. Solomon. D. Ishbosheth. Answer A. Jonathan. Jonathan, the son of King Saul, was a close and loyal friend to David. 1 Samuel 18:1 states, after David had finished talking with Saul, Jonathan became one in spirit with David, and he loved him as himself. Their deep friendship is one of the most celebrated relationships in the Bible. Question 33. What was the special diet of the prophet Daniel in Babylon? A. Only vegetables and water. B. Bread and honey. C. Meat and wine. D. Milk and figs. Answer A. Only vegetables and water. Daniel refused to eat the royal food and wine, choosing instead to eat only vegetables and drink water. Daniel 1:12 states, please test your servants for 10 days. Give us nothing but vegetables to eat and water to drink. This diet became known as the Daniel fast, symbolizing his commitment to purity and faithfulness to God. Question 34. Which Old Testament book foretells the coming of the Messiah? A. Isaiah. B. Malachi. C. Jeremiah. D. Ezekiel. Answer A. Isaiah. The book of Isaiah contains many prophecies about the coming of the Messiah. Isaiah 53 in particular describes the suffering servant who would bear the sins of many, pointing to the future arrival of Jesus Christ. Isaiah 53:5 says, but he was pierced for our transgressions, he was crushed for our iniquities. Question 35. Who built the first temple in Jerusalem? A. Solomon. B. David. C. Samuel. D. Nehemiah. Answer: A. Solomon. King Solomon built the first temple in Jerusalem. 1 Kings 6:1 says, in the 480th year after the Israelites came out of Egypt, in the 4th year of Solomon's reign over Israel, he began to build the temple of the Lord. The temple became the central place of worship for the Israelites. Question 36. What was the name of Moses' brother who helped him speak to Pharaoh? A. Aaron. B. Joshua. C. Caleb. D. Eli. Answer: A. Aaron. Moses' brother Aaron helped him communicate with Pharaoh. Exodus 4:14 states, then the Lord's anger burned against Moses, and he said, what about your brother, Aaron the Levite? I know he can speak well. Aaron became the first high priest and played a key role in leading the Israelites. Question 37. Who had a dream about a statue made of gold, silver, bronze, iron, and clay? A. Nebuchadnezzar. B. Daniel. C. Joseph. D. Ezekiel. Answer: A. Nebuchadnezzar. King Nebuchadnezzar had a dream about a statue made of gold, silver, bronze, iron, and clay, which Daniel interpreted. Daniel 2:31-33 says, your majesty looked, and there before you stood a large statue, an enormous, dazzling statue, awesome in appearance. The dream symbolized future kingdoms and the eventual kingdom of God. Question 38. What was the basis of Solomon's request from God in a dream? A. Wealth. B. Wisdom. C. Power. D. Long life. Answer: B. Wisdom. Solomon asked God for wisdom in a dream. 1 Kings 3-9 records Solomon's request. So give your servant a discerning heart to govern your people and to distinguish between right and wrong. Because Solomon asked for wisdom rather than wealth or power, God granted him both wisdom and wealth. Question 39. Which prophet married a prostitute to symbolize Israel's unfaithfulness to God? A. Hosea. B. Ezekiel. C. Isaiah. D. Jeremiah. Answer: A. Hosea. Hosea married a prostitute named Gomer at God's command to symbolize Israel's unfaithfulness to him. Hosea 1-2 says, when the Lord began to speak through Hosea, the Lord said to him, go, marry a promiscuous woman and have children with her, for like an adulterous wife, this land is guilty of unfaithfulness to the Lord. This dramatic action highlighted Israel's spiritual adultery. Question 40. What type of insect was one of the plagues of Egypt? A. Locust. B. Beetle. C. Grasshopper. D. Spider. Answer: A. Locust. Locusts were one of the plagues sent by God to Egypt. Exodus 10:14 states, the locusts invaded all Egypt and settled down in every area of the country in great numbers. The plague of locusts devastated the crops of Egypt, symbolizing God's power and judgment. Question 41. Who was Isaac's wife? A. Leah. B. Rebekah. C. Rachel. D. Sarah. Answer: B. Rebekah. Rebekah was the wife of Isaac. Genesis 24-67 says, Isaac brought her into the tent of his mother Sarah, and he married Rebekah. So she became his wife, and he loved her. This marriage was arranged through Abraham's servant, who sought a wife for Isaac among his relatives in Mesopotamia. Question 42. What is considered the wisdom book of the Old Testament filled with sayings and philosophical observations? A. Ecclesiastes. B. Proverbs. C. Psalms. D. Job. Answer: B. Proverbs. The book of Proverbs is considered the primary wisdom book of the Old Testament, filled with sayings and practical advice. Proverbs 1-7 says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. The book is traditionally attributed to Solomon, renowned for his wisdom. Question 43. Which prophet saw a vision of dry bones coming to life? A. Ezekiel. B. Jeremiah. C. Daniel. D. Isaiah. Answer. A. Ezekiel. Ezekiel had a vision of dry bones coming to life, symbolizing the restoration of Israel. Ezekiel 37-45 states, Then he said to me, Prophesy to these bones, and say to them, Dry bones, hear the word of the Lord. I will make breath enter you, and you will come to life. This vision represented God's power to bring life to what seemed hopeless. Question 44. Who was the cupbearer to the king who rebuilt the walls of Jerusalem? A. Nehemiah. B. Ezra. C. Zerubbabel. D. Mordecai. Answer. A. Nehemiah. Nehemiah was the cupbearer to the Persian king Artaxerxes and led the rebuilding of the walls of Jerusalem. Nehemiah 2:17 says, Then I said to them, You see the trouble we are in. Jerusalem lies in ruins, and its gates have been burned with fire. Come, let us rebuild the wall of Jerusalem, and we will no longer be in disgrace. Question 45. What significant structure was built by King Solomon that had great significance for Israel? A. The Temple. B. The Tower of Babel. C. The Ark of the Covenant. D. The Tabernacle. Answer. A. The Temple. King Solomon built the first temple in Jerusalem, which became the center of worship for Israel. 1 Kings 6:1 states, In the 480th year after the Israelites came out of Egypt, in the 4th year of Solomon's reign over Israel, he began to build the temple of the Lord. Question 46. Who was the king famous for his wisdom and wealth in the Old Testament? A. David. B. Solomon. C. Hezekiah. D. Ahab. Answer. B. Solomon. Solomon was renowned for his wisdom and wealth. 1 Kings 10:23 says, King Solomon was greater in riches and wisdom than all the other kings of the earth. His wisdom, granted by God, and his prosperity made him one of the most celebrated kings of Israel. Question 47. What object did Moses throw into the water to make it drinkable? A. A branch. B. A staff. C. A stone. D. Salt. Answer. A. A branch. Moses threw a branch or a piece of wood into the bitter waters at Merah, making them drinkable. Exodus 15:25 says, Then Moses cried out to the Lord, and the Lord showed him a piece of wood. He threw it into the water, and the water became fit to drink. Question 48. What was the name of the tower where God confused the language of the whole world? A. Tower of Babel. B. Tower of Siloam. C. Tower of Jericho. D. Tower of Megiddo. Answer. A. Tower of Babel. The Tower of Babel is where God confused the languages of humanity. Genesis 11:9 states, That is why it was called Babel, because there the Lord confused the language of the whole world. From there the Lord scattered them over the face of the whole earth. The story explains the origin of different languages and nations. Question 49. Who is known as the weeping prophet? A. Isaiah. B. Jeremiah. C. Ezekiel. D. Amos. Answer. B. Jeremiah. Jeremiah is often called the weeping prophet due to his deep sorrow over the sins of Israel and the coming destruction of Jerusalem. Jeremiah 9:1 expresses his lament, Oh, that my head were waters and my eyes a fountain of tears, that I might weep day and night for the slain of the daughter of my people. Question 50. What sea did God part to allow the Israelites to escape from Egypt? A. The Red Sea. B. The Dead Sea. C. The Sea of Galilee. D. The Mediterranean Sea. Answer A. The Red Sea. God parted the Red Sea to allow the Israelites to escape from Pharaoh's army. Exodus 14:21 says, Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and all that night the Lord drove the sea back with a strong east wind and turned it into dry land. The waters were divided. The parting of the Red Sea is one of the most well-known miracles in the Bible. Question 51. In what book and chapter can the Ten Commandments be found? A. Genesis 20. B. Exodus 20. C. Leviticus 19. D. Deuteronomy 6. Answer B. Exodus 20. The Ten Commandments are recorded in Exodus 20. Exodus 20:1-2 begins, And God spoke all these words. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. These commandments formed the moral foundation of Israel's covenant with God. Question 52. Who was the father of many nations according to God's promise? A. Abraham. B. Moses. C. Jacob. D. Isaac. Answer A. Abraham. Abraham is known as the father of many nations due to God's covenant with him. Genesis 17:5 says, No longer will you be called Abram, your name will be Abraham, for I have made you a father of many nations. God's promise to Abraham laid the foundation for the nation of Israel and other peoples. Question 53. Which two scouts reported that the promised land was good and could be conquered? A. Joshua and Caleb. B. Moses and Aaron. C. Jacob and Esau. D. David and Solomon. Answer A. Joshua and Caleb. Joshua and Caleb were the two scouts who believed the Israelites could conquer the promised land, despite the other 10 spies' negative reports. Numbers 14:6-8 says, Joshua son of Nun and Caleb son of Jephunneh said to the entire Israelite assembly, The land we passed through and explored is exceedingly good. The Lord is with us. Do not be afraid of them. Question 54. What was the name of the valley where David fought Goliath? A. Valley of Jezreel. B. Valley of Elah. C. Kidron Valley. D. Hinnom Valley. Answer B. Valley of Elah. David fought Goliath in the Valley of Elah. 1 Samuel 17:2 says, Saul and the Israelites assembled and camped in the Valley of Elah and drew up their battle line to meet the Philistines. This battle marks a pivotal moment in David's rise to prominence in Israel. Question 55. Which Old Testament character was known for his wisdom in ruling between two women claiming a baby? A. Solomon. B. David. C. Samuel. D. Moses. Answer A. Solomon. King Solomon was known for his wisdom in ruling between two women who claimed to be the mother of the same baby. 1 Kings 3:28 states, When all Israel heard the verdict the king had given, they held the king in awe, because they saw that he had wisdom from God to administer justice. Solomon's judgment is one of his most famous acts of wisdom. Question 56. What was the main reason God flooded the earth in the time of Noah? A. Idolatry. B. Violence and wickedness. C. Famine. D. False prophets. Answer B. Violence and wickedness. God flooded the earth because of the great violence and wickedness of humanity. Genesis 6:5-7 says, The Lord saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become. So the Lord said, I will wipe from the face of the earth the human race I have created. Only Noah and his family were spared due to their righteousness. Question 57. Who was the Babylonian king during the Jews' captivity? A. Nebuchadnezzar. B. Darius. C. Cyrus. D. Belshazzar. Answer A. Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar was the Babylonian king during the Jews' captivity. 2 Kings 24-1 states, during Jehoiakim's reign, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, invaded the land, and Jehoiakim became his vassal for 3 years. The captivity marked a significant period in Israel's history, leading to many prophetic writings. Question 58. What significant act did Moses perform on Mount Sinai? A. Received the 10 Commandments. B. Parted the Red Sea. C. Turned water into blood. D. Built an altar. Answer A. Received the 10 Commandments. Moses received the 10 Commandments on Mount Sinai. Exodus 31:18 states, when the Lord finished speaking to Moses on Mount Sinai, he gave him the 2 tablets of the covenant law, the tablets of stone inscribed by the finger of God. This event is central to the covenant relationship between God and Israel. Question 59. Who was the judge who vowed to God to sacrifice the first thing that greeted him upon his return home? A. Gideon. B. Jephthah. C. Samson. D. Deborah. Answer B. Jephthah. Jephthah vowed to sacrifice the first thing that greeted him if God gave him victory over the Ammonites. Judges 11:30-31 states, Jephthah made a vow to the Lord, if you give the Ammonites into my hands, whatever comes out of the door of my house to meet me will be the Lord's, and I will sacrifice it as a burnt offering. Question 60. What is the Hebrew term for the Day of Atonement? A. Passover. B. Yom Kippur. C. Shabbat. D. Rosh Hashanah. Answer B. Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is the Hebrew term for the Day of Atonement. Leviticus 16:29-30 explains, this is to be a lasting ordinance for you. On the 10th day of the 7th month, you must deny yourselves and not do any work, because on this day atonement will be made for you to cleanse you. It is the holiest day in the Jewish calendar. Question 61. How many books are in the Old Testament? A. 27. B. 39. C. 46. D. 66. Answer B. 39. The Old Testament consists of 39 books. These books are divided into different categories, including the Law, Torah, the Prophets, and the Writings. The total number of books in the Old Testament reflects the Hebrew Scriptures, which form the foundation of the Jewish faith, and the Christian Old Testament. Question 62. Which prophet was known for his miracles and contest against Baal's prophets on Mount Carmel? A. Isaiah. B. Elisha. C. Elijah. D. Ezekiel. Answer C. Elijah. Elijah is the prophet known for his miracles and his famous contest against the prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel. In 1 Kings 18:36-39, Elijah calls down fire from heaven to demonstrate the power of the one true God, saying, "Answer me, Lord, answer me, so these people will know that you, Lord, are God." The fire consumed the sacrifice, proving God's power and leading to the defeat of Baal's prophets. Question 63. What did Joseph's brothers sell him for? A. 30 pieces of silver. B. 20 shekels of silver. C. 10 gold coins. D. A sack of grain. Answer B. 20 shekels of silver. Joseph was sold by his brothers for 20 shekels of silver. Genesis 37:28 says, so when the Midianite merchants came by, his brothers pulled Joseph up out of the cistern and sold him for 20 shekels of silver to the Ishmaelites, who took him to Egypt. This act of betrayal eventually led to Joseph's rise to power in Egypt. Question 64. What material was used to cover the Ark of the Covenant? A. Bronze. B. Silver. C. Gold. D. Iron. Answer C. Gold. The Ark of the Covenant was overlaid with pure gold. Exodus 25:11 says, overlay it with pure gold, both inside and out, and make a gold molding around it. The ark was the most sacred object in the tabernacle, symbolizing God's presence with his people. Question 65. Who was the mother of Ishmael? A. Sarah. B. Hagar. C. Rebekah. D. Rachel. Answer. B. Hagar. Hagar, Sarah's Egyptian maidservant, was the mother of Ishmael. Genesis 16:15 states, so Hagar bore Abram a son, and Abram gave the name Ishmael to the son she had born. Ishmael is considered the ancestor of many Arab peoples, and his birth is significant in both the Bible and the Quran. Question 66. Which Old Testament book contains the verse, "For I know the plans I have for you"? A. Isaiah. B. Jeremiah. C. Psalms. D. Proverbs. Answer. B. Jeremiah. The verse, "For I know the plans I have for you," is found in Jeremiah 29:11. It reads, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." This promise was made to the Israelites during their exile in Babylon, giving them hope for their return. Question 67. Who found a wife for Isaac? A. Abraham. B. Laban. C. Moses. D. Abraham's servant. Answer. D. Abraham's servant. Abraham's servant, under Abraham's direction, found a wife for Isaac. Genesis 24:4 says, "You shall go to my country and to my kindred, and take a wife for my son Isaac." Rebekah was chosen to be Isaac's wife after the servant prayed for God's guidance in the selection process. Question 68. What was the primary language in which the Old Testament was written? A. Aramaic. B. Greek. C. Hebrew. D. Latin. Answer. C. Hebrew. The primary language of the Old Testament is Hebrew, although portions of Daniel and Ezra were written in Aramaic. Hebrew was the language of the Israelites, and most of the Old Testament was written in this ancient language, preserving the laws, prophecies, and history of God's people. Question 69. Which prophet had a vision of a wheel within a wheel? A. Isaiah. B. Ezekiel. C. Daniel. D. Jeremiah. Answer. B. Ezekiel. Ezekiel had a vision of a wheel within a wheel. Ezekiel 1:16 describes the vision. This was the appearance and structure of the wheels. They sparkled like topaz, and all four looked alike. Each appeared to be made like a wheel intersecting a wheel. This vision symbolized God's omnipresence and ability to move and act anywhere. Question 70. What garden is described at the beginning of Genesis? A. The Garden of Gethsemane. B. The Garden of Eden. C. The Garden of Beersheba. D. The Garden of Havilah. Answer. B. The Garden of Eden. The Garden of Eden is described in the beginning of Genesis as the paradise where Adam and Eve lived before the fall. Genesis 2:8 says, "Now the Lord God had planted a garden in the east in Eden, and there he put the man he had formed." Eden represents the ideal world before sin entered the picture. Question 71. Who succeeded Moses as the leader of the Israelites? A. Aaron. B. Joshua. C. Caleb. D. Gideon. Answer. B. Joshua. Joshua succeeded Moses as the leader of the Israelites. Joshua 1:1-2 states, "After the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord said to Joshua son of Nun, Moses' aide, 'Moses my servant is dead. Now then, you and all these people, get ready to cross the Jordan River into the land I am about to give to them.'" Joshua led the people into the promised land. Question 72. What type of animal spoke to Balaam? A. A dog. B. A donkey. C. A lion. D. A serpent. Answer B. A donkey. A donkey spoke to Balaam when God opened its mouth. Numbers 22:28 says, Then the Lord opened the donkey's mouth, and it said to Balaam, What have I done to you to make you beat me these 3 times? This miraculous event helped redirect Balaam's disobedience. Question 73. How many days did Jonah spend in the belly of the fish? A. 2 days. B. 3 days. C. 5 days. D. 7 days. Answer B. 3 days. Jonah spent 3 days in the belly of the fish. Jonah 1:17 states, Now the Lord provided a huge fish to swallow Jonah, and Jonah was in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights. This period parallels the 3 days Christ would later spend in the tomb. Question 74. What was the main material of the tablets of the 10 Commandments? A. Wood. B. Stone. C. Gold. D. Clay. Answer B. Stone. The 10 Commandments were written on stone tablets. Exodus 31:18 says, When the Lord finished speaking to Moses on Mount Sinai, he gave him the 2 tablets of the covenant law, the tablets of stone inscribed by the finger of God. These tablets represented God's law for his people. Question 75. Who was the king of Israel who married Jezebel? A. Solomon. B. Ahab. C. Saul. D. David. Answer B. Ahab. King Ahab married Jezebel, who led Israel into idol worship. 1 Kings 16:31 says, He not only considered it trivial to commit the sins of Jeroboam son of Nebat, but he also married Jezebel daughter of Ethbaal king of the Sidonians, and began to serve Baal and worship him. Ahab's reign was marked by his disobedience to God. Question 76. What feast commemorates the Israelites' escape from Egypt? A. Pentecost. B. Passover. C. Tabernacles. D. Purim. Answer B. Passover. Passover commemorates the Israelites' escape from Egypt. Exodus 12:14 states, This is a day you are to commemorate. For the generations to come you shall celebrate it as a festival to the Lord, a lasting ordinance. The feast celebrates God's deliverance of the Israelites from slavery. Question 77. Which Old Testament character is known for his extraordinary strength and tragic downfall? A. Gideon. B. David. C. Samson. D. Saul. Answer C. Samson. Samson is known for his extraordinary strength and his tragic downfall due to his relationship with Delilah. Judges 16:17 says, So he told her everything. No razor has ever been used on my head, he said, because I have been a Nazarite dedicated to God from my mother's womb. His strength was lost when his hair was cut, but he regained it to defeat the Philistines. Question 78. What was Solomon known for asking from God? A. Wisdom. B. Wealth. C. Power. D. Long life. Answer A. Wisdom. Solomon asked for wisdom from God. 1 Kings 3:9 says, So give your servant a discerning heart to govern your people and to distinguish between right and wrong. Because Solomon asked for wisdom rather than wealth or power, God blessed him with both wisdom and prosperity. Question 79. Which prophet was known for going up to heaven in a whirlwind? A. Elisha. B. Isaiah. C. Elijah. D. Jeremiah. Answer C. Elijah. Elijah was taken up to heaven in a whirlwind. 2 Kings 2:11 says, As they were walking along and talking together, Suddenly a chariot of fire and horses of fire appeared and separated the two of them, and Elijah went up to heaven in a whirlwind. This miraculous event marked the end of Elijah's prophetic ministry. Question 80. How many spies did Moses send to scout the promised land? A. 10. B. 2. C. 12. D. 7. Answer. C. 12. Moses sent 12 spies to scout the promised land, one from each tribe of Israel. Numbers 13-2 states, "Send some men to explore the land of Canaan, which I am giving to the Israelites. From each ancestral tribe send one of its leaders." Only Joshua and Caleb brought back a positive report. Question 81. What was Esau's reaction when Jacob stole his blessing? A. He forgave Jacob. B. He vowed to kill Jacob. C. He blessed Jacob in return. D. He left for Egypt. Answer. B. He vowed to kill Jacob. When Esau realized that Jacob had stolen his blessing, he was furious and vowed to kill his brother. Genesis 27:41 says, Esau held a grudge against Jacob because of the blessing his father had given him. He said to himself, "The days of mourning for my father are near. Then I will kill my brother Jacob." This incident caused Jacob to flee for safety, leading to years of separation between the brothers. Question 82. Who is considered the last judge of Israel? A. Samuel. B. Gideon. C. Samson. D. Deborah. Answer. A. Samuel. Samuel is considered the last judge of Israel before the establishment of the monarchy. 1 Samuel 7:15 says, Samuel continued as Israel's leader all the days of his life. He anointed the first two kings of Israel, Saul and David, transitioning Israel from the period of the judges to the period of the kings. Question 83. What book follows Genesis in the Bible? A. Numbers. B. Leviticus. C. Exodus. D. Deuteronomy. Answer. C. Exodus. The book of Exodus follows Genesis in the Bible. Exodus continues the story of the Israelites, beginning with their slavery in Egypt and ending with the establishment of the covenant at Mount Sinai. Exodus 1:1 states, These are the names of the sons of Israel who went to Egypt with Jacob, each with his family. Question 84. Who was the youngest son of Jacob? A. Joseph. B. Reuben. C. Benjamin. D. Levi. Answer. C. Benjamin. Benjamin was the youngest son of Jacob. Genesis 35:18 records the circumstances of his birth. As she breathed her last, for she was dying, she named her son Benoni, but his father named him Benjamin. Benjamin's birth occurred shortly before his mother, Rachel, passed away. Question 85. Which book details the laws given to the Israelites? A. Deuteronomy. B. Exodus. C. Leviticus. D. Numbers. Answer. C. Leviticus. The book of Leviticus contains detailed laws given to the Israelites, particularly focusing on the priesthood, sacrifices, and cleanliness. Leviticus 1:1 says, The Lord called to Moses and spoke to him from the tent of meeting. This book is a manual for holiness and proper worship. Question 86. Which Old Testament prophet foretold the new covenant of the heart? A. Ezekiel. B. Isaiah. C. Jeremiah. D. Daniel. Answer. C. Jeremiah. Jeremiah prophesied about the new covenant that God would establish with his people. Jeremiah 31:33 states, This is the covenant I will make with the people of Israel after that time, declares the Lord. I will put my law in their minds and write it on their hearts. I will be their God, and they will be my people. This promise anticipated a transformation of the heart and spirit. Question 87. Who built the ark to save his family and various animals from the flood? A. Noah. B. Moses. C. Abraham. D. David. Answer A. Noah. Noah built the ark to save his family and animals from the flood. Genesis 6:14 says, "So make yourself an ark of cypress wood. Make rooms in it and coat it with pitch inside and out." God commanded Noah to build the ark to preserve life through the coming judgment of the flood. Question 88. What was the main sign of Jonah's prophecy to the Ninevites? A. Fire from heaven. B. 3 days in the fish. C. Darkness. D. A great earthquake. Answer B. 3 days in the fish. Jonah's time spent in the belly of the great fish for 3 days was a sign of his prophetic message to the Ninevites. Jonah 1:17 says, "Now the Lord provided a huge fish to swallow Jonah, and Jonah was in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights." This event prefigured Jesus' resurrection after 3 days in the tomb. Question 89. Which biblical character is known for his coat of many colors? A. Joseph. B. Jacob. C. Esau. D. Judah. Answer A. Joseph. Joseph is famous for his coat of many colors, a gift from his father Jacob. Genesis 37:3 says, "Now Israel loved Joseph more than any of his other sons, because he had been born to him in his old age, and he made an ornate robe for him." This favoritism caused jealousy among Joseph's brothers, leading to his being sold into slavery. Question 90. What was the main form of worship instituted in Leviticus? A. Sacrifices. B. Fasting. C. Offerings of bread. D. Prayers. Answer A. Sacrifices. Sacrifices were the main form of worship instituted in Leviticus. Leviticus 1-3-4 says, "If the offering is a burnt offering from the herd, you are to offer a male without defect. You must present it at the entrance to the tent of meeting so that it will be acceptable to the Lord." The sacrificial system was central to Israelite worship. Question 91. Who is credited with writing the majority of the Proverbs? A. Moses. B. David. C. Solomon. D. Isaiah. Answer C. Solomon. Solomon is credited with writing the majority of the Proverbs. Proverbs 1-1 says, "The Proverbs of Solomon son of David, king of Israel." Solomon's wisdom, granted by God, is reflected in these sayings that offer practical and spiritual guidance for life. Question 92. What is the name of the mountain where Abraham was to sacrifice Isaac? A. Mount Sinai. B. Mount Ararat. C. Mount Carmel. D. Mount Moriah. Answer D. Mount Moriah. Mount Moriah is the location where Abraham was instructed to sacrifice Isaac. Genesis 22:2 says, "Then God said, 'Take your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on a mountain I will show you.'" This event tested Abraham's faith and trust in God. Question 93. Which prophet challenged the prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel? A. Elijah. B. Elisha. C. Isaiah. D. Jeremiah. Answer A. Elijah. Elijah challenged the prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel. 1 Kings 18:24 says, "Then you call on the name of your God, and I will call on the name of the Lord, the God who answers by fire. He is God." Elijah's prayer was answered when God sent fire from heaven, proving his supremacy over Baal. Question 94. What were the names of Abraham's sons? A. Jacob and Esau. B. Isaac and Ishmael. C. Joseph and Benjamin. D. Cain and Abel. Answer B. Isaac and Ishmael. Abraham had two sons, Isaac and Ishmael. Genesis 16:15 records the birth of Ishmael. So Hagar bore Abram a son, and Abram gave the name Ishmael to the son she had born. Later, Genesis 21:3 says, Abraham gave the name Isaac to the son Sarah bore him. Isaac became the child of the covenant, while Ishmael became the ancestor of many nations. Question 95. Who was the first female judge of Israel? A. Deborah. B. Jael. C. Hannah. D. Esther. Answer: A. Deborah. Deborah was the first and only female judge of Israel. Judges 4:4 says, Now Deborah, a prophet, the wife of Lapidoth, was leading Israel at that time. She led Israel to victory over the Canaanites and is celebrated as a wise and courageous leader. Question 96. What role did Ruth play in the lineage of King David? A. She was his grandmother. B. She was his mother. C. She was his great-grandmother. D. She was his aunt. Answer: C. She was his great-grandmother. Ruth was the great-grandmother of King David. Ruth 4:17 says, The women living there said, Naomi has a son, and they named him Obed. He was the father of Jesse, the father of David. Ruth's loyalty and faithfulness led to her inclusion in the genealogy of the Messiah. Question 97. What is the last book of the Old Testament? A. Malachi. B. Zechariah. C. Haggai. D. Joel. Answer: A. Malachi. The last book of the Old Testament is Malachi. Malachi 4:5-6 speaks of the coming of Elijah before the day of the Lord. See, I will send the prophet Elijah to you before that great and dreadful day of the Lord comes. The book serves as a bridge to the New Testament, predicting the arrival of John the Baptist. Question 98. Which two books of the Old Testament are named after women? A. Ruth and Esther. B. Deborah and Esther. C. Rachel and Leah. D. Sarah and Rebekah. Answer: A. Ruth and Esther. Ruth and Esther are the only two books of the Old Testament named after women. The book of Ruth tells the story of Ruth's loyalty and her inclusion in the lineage of David, while the book of Esther recounts how Queen Esther saved the Jewish people from genocide. Question 99. Who was the high priest who taught Samuel? A. Eli. B. Aaron. C. Phinehas. D. Zadok. Answer: A. Eli. Eli was the high priest who taught Samuel. 1 Samuel 3:1 says, The boy Samuel ministered before the Lord under Eli. Eli mentored Samuel, who would become one of the greatest prophets and judges of Israel. Question 100. What biblical event is celebrated during the Feast of Pentecost in the Jewish tradition? A. The giving of the law. B. The parting of the Red Sea. C. The fall of Jericho. D. The birth of Isaac. Answer: A. The giving of the law. Pentecost, also known as the Feast of Weeks, commemorates the giving of the law at Mount Sinai. Exodus 19:1 describes how the Israelites arrived at Mount Sinai in the third month after leaving Egypt, where God gave them the 10 Commandments. This event is central to the celebration of Pentecost in the Jewish tradition.